Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Listen to AM 560 The Answer online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, and on TuneIn, iHeart, and on Odyssey. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy, but no Amy today, she's off, so it's just me. Cori Bush, Socialist Spice Girl from St. Louis. She's busy, got a lot of things on her plate, when she is not proposing a $14 trillion reparations plan. Yeah, 14 trillion with a T. She is explaining that the Biden administration is not looking to ban gas stoves. They're looking to do something else, something important. Save lives.
This proposed rule is not a ban on gas stoves. This proposed rule is not a ban on gas stoves. We are regulating indoor air pollution.
It's a regulation of indoor air pollution. She wanted to say, I can only imagine the number of my constituencies who are unknowingly being poisoned by their gas stoves without this proposed rule being in effect. Now, the proposed rule would, according to the industry, eliminate about half of the gas stoves on the market. So I guess that's not a complete ban, but it's certainly going to make it's certainly going to provide less choice and more expense if you did want a gas stove. Richard Trumka, remember him? Head of the AFL-CIO. He's also a Biden appointee to the Consumer Product Safety Commission. It's a hidden hazard. Any option is on the table. Products that can't be made safe can be banned. Well, saving lives. Saving lives. That's what regulators are always doing. They're saving lives. Is there been any evidentiary support presented that gas stoves are some sort of silent killer? If somebody's seen that, please direct my attention to it. I guess just saying that this is to regulate indoor pollution is good enough. For more on this regulatory topic and others, please be joined by Scott the Cow Guy Shellady, market specialist for Market Day Report, 10:30 to 1 Chicago time, and the Cow Guy Close, 1 to 1:30, both at RFD-TV. Scott the Cow Guy, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Good morning.
You're not advocating polluting the indoors. You're not defending the silent killer that is the gas stove, are you?
I'm advocating for exactly what my father used to tell me when I was an idiot, and he would say, "Why don't you worry about something that might happen, numbnuts?"
Yeah.
So it all stems from the fact that the NAACP has put a travel warning on Florida, but they don't put a travel warning on Baltimore and Chicago. They want to worry about your indoor pollution in Cori Bush's district in St. Louis, whatever that may be, but she doesn't care about all the people and the gunfighting and the crime and all the people that are actually dying of real things. So these people want to regulate things like masks when you have a virus that's running rampant through the country, but when we actually do have something in the air that is hurting people in East Palestine, there's not a mask to be seen for miles. So they regulate things that aren't going to happen and let things that definitely are going to happen, and it's to the detriment of everybody that touches them.
Yeah, it's interesting, the mask comparison, too, because there are exemptions for important people when it comes to gas stoves, too. Like, for example, Jose Andres, the celebrity chef, he's for Chicagoans, he's got that bizarre meat on Wacker and Randolph. That's Jose Andres.
Okay.
But he is going to get an exemption from the California gas stove regulations because he's Jose Andres, you see.
Yeah, he's probably just got a bunch of undocumented people working in his kitchen, so that they don't really care anyway. It's just ridiculous. I mean, this is. I don't want again, as my father said, worry about something that's going to happen. And every time I see these minute, they control us down to the minutia, but they really miss the big picture. I mean, that's what Pete Buttigieg has done for his job. I mean, he regulates the minutia, but lets the huge things happen. And I don't understand. They would be much better off by worrying about having people travel to Chicago and Baltimore rather than putting out problems, putting out edicts about traveling to Florida. I still can't get over the fact that you actually had something you could see, right? You couldn't see the virus. Nobody could see COVID. But you could see this horrible black cloud of smoke emanating from East Palestine, Ohio, and everybody's showing up there, and nobody's got one mask on yet, and everybody's complaining about respiratory problems. Where are they? I mean, the level of hypocrisy is astounding. And again, things that are actually happening they don't care about, they want to regulate the minutia that's never going to. I did not realize that gas stoves were killing that many people. I'd like to know the number of people it kills every year.
Yeah, me too. Well, maybe if Jose Andres moved to East Palestine, Ohio, maybe they'd get a little bit more consideration. Speaking of things that may or may not happen, your take and your read on the market's take on this debt ceiling melodrama that's playing itself out. Largely, it seems, over the work requirement for welfare recipients as much as even the spending differences.
Well, I mean, the spending differences are such that one of them is only slightly better than the other. I mean, if the Republicans are really going to draw a line, I wish there would have been something a little bit more harsh. But
well, maybe it's the work requirement, which is not unsubstantial.
Well, and doesn't that tell you where we are as a country? I mean, the fact that you're an able-bodied person with no dependents and you're getting benefits and you don't want to do anything for them, that tells you exactly where this country is. I mean, my country changed dramatically when Vince Lombardi died and Bobby Knight got fired. I mean, everything went downhill from there. Okay?
That's the watershed moment.
That was my watershed moment when everything changed.
Yeah.
I mean, because if you've got folks that are much more willing, and people are rewarding them for staying home. People are coming up with these dumb ideas about universal basic income, which has failed miserably everywhere else they've done it in the world. But when we're going to do it differently here and reward people for sitting at home and give them money for nothing. And now you've conditioned these people to think that they're owed that. And so, they don't want to work for government benefits. I mean, workfare is common sense. But again, there you go. Common sense isn't that common anymore. These types of things just are a great reflection of where we've come as a society. Another one of those things that they want is to claw back money that nobody's used for COVID because COVID's over. I don't understand how there's even how can you get angry about that? COVID's over. You didn't spend it. Can we have it back, please?
But
what's the problem?
But if with respect to Wall Street, I know there's sort of general anxiety all the time about everything, but is there real belief that the United States would default on its debt? Does anybody on the street believe that?
No. I mean, amongst the chattering classes, the guys that I've dealt with for the last 35 years, no. But here's the problem, right? It's when you walk into a negotiation, like McCarthy's been doing, and he's been doing an okay job. But, I mean, if you walk in and you say, just want to let everybody know we can't afford to default, it takes all the wind out of your sails. You've got no leverage anymore. And so, to some degree, Dan, as much as sometimes he's crazy, Trump, a lot of folks said, oh, that was very irresponsible for him when he said, I would just default. I don't believe he believes that, but I know that he's a decent negotiator, and you can't walk into a meeting giving away the only thing you've got to hold over anybody's head. And I think that that's the problem, is there's no leverage. I mean, yes, we're getting someplace, and they're trying to cajole society to come along to your side so that finally Biden will flip and do something. But at the end of the day, the path that the Republicans want to put us on versus the path that the Democrats want to put us on reminds me a lot about when they reopened restaurants to 25% capacity. We're just going to go out of business slower.
I wanted to get
the whole thing.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I wanted to get your take, too, on where you think the markets are at, since this is your specialty. Because, I mentioned this to Steve Moore yesterday, this Don Luskin piece in the Wall Street Journal, where he's now expressing concern, as he did actually previously, about deflation in the next year because of the combination of the money supply declining and the Fed action on interest rates. And I wonder if you have the same concern that we are past sort of the peak of inflation and it is steadily declining, and that Jay Powell needs to take his foot off the pedal with interest rate hikes and allow the productive capacity of the economy to be less shackled.
Yeah, I 100% understand that, and I think that the thing that also needs to be put in there is AI, artificial intelligence. I think ultimately that will end up being very deflationary. And right now, let's just say out of the 90% of the, let's say 10% of the stocks, or 10 stocks in the S&P 500 are responsible for 90% of the gains. 10 stocks are responsible for 90%, and they're all AI stocks, or they all have something to do with AI. AI is already making a big impact on money because a lot of the things that have done well this year, have artificial intelligence in them. And I do think that the Fed has tightened at a historic pace. I think inflation, the annual rate of inflation, although it's not as high as it was, look, we're at 4.9%. 4.9% means things are 4.9% more expensive this year than they were this time last year. But this time last year, things were 8.3% more expensive. That's why the consumer's getting killed. Food, fuel, and rent are still very high. And I think that because of the gains that people are looking at in the stock market as something that's good, I say is much too narrow. And I think that the economy is still on very, very narrow footing, which would be easily toppled over. But slowly but surely, you've got smarter people, I think, than a lot of people out there are giving up the ghost on trying to be short the market or think it's going to go down, and are jumping in on this bandwagon that things are going to be great and artificial intelligence is going to be something that's going to take these stock markets to new highs. But I still think that the economy is very, very shaky, and I think a large degree that is because the interest rate hikes have been so fast and furious. We've gone from 0 to 5%. I am supportive of slowing their roll, but because I listen to what they say, they're so hell-bent on getting that 4.9% inflation down to 2%. That I have to actually listen to what they say rather than think what I think they should do. And I feel like that they're going to be overly aggressive, and that's why I'm bearish on the economy and stock markets, because I think that they're going to continue to really break this thing because I think this is, I've said this to you before, I think it's criminal. They've actually said it out loud. Jay Powell has said it out loud that we need to go into a recession and people need to be put out of work to get inflation under control. But what he doesn't say is the inflation that I let get out of hand, which was my fault. So because of what I did, I need to put you all out of work and throw the country in maybe a mild recession to make up for the error of my ways. He said that, and I think that it's unbelievable that that's the situation we're in. But because he said it, I got to listen to it. And so I think that that's the reason why I'm bearish on things, because I think that they're going to really screw it up.
I wanted to get your take on something our friend Jim Perry, who's also a market analyst, wrote in a recent posting. He and it flies in formation with what you just said about 10% of the equities responsible for 90% of the gains. Excuse me, 10, not 10%, 10, literally the number 10. He asked the question, wondering why your actively managed big cap equity fund is underperforming the S&P 500 index. Only 29% of equities in the S&P are beating the index. It's the lowest since 1998. He calls that stunning in terms of the point that you were making. Yeah. So despite what you're seeing sort of top line And I'm sure a lot of investors are seeing this with respect to their accounts. But despite what you're seeing at the top line, you really have to be throwing bullseyes to be making money in the market right now. And it would seem to me that if Jay Powell is the typical political animal that he seems to be, that you get at the Fed, that he would be interested in propping up this market a little bit more broadly, as you say, as compared to how narrow it is right now. And that means pressing the pause button. That in the combination with the danger of more regional banks failing.
Yeah, and if you look at, the bond market's bigger than the stock market, right? There's more money in bonds in the U.S. than stocks. A lot of people don't know that. But the bond market actually, if you look at, say, Eurodollars and Fed funds and the things like that we talk about all the time with your friend Jim Uriel, a lot of those things are pricing in interest rate cuts between now and December of 24, and some of them quite substantial, because the smart money knows how narrow and how shoddy this all is. And if we do ultimately end up getting some rate cuts, it's not going to be because things are great and everybody's skipping down the yellow brick road. It'll be because of some sort of financial calamity that we've had to cut interest rates. That's what we're facing. I mean, the bond markets are telling us a different story than these very narrow, indices that are higher on the year by 8%. But if you say, that's the stock market, the S&P, up 8% on the year. But if you actually make all those 500 stocks in the S&P 500 equally weighted, not weight the bigger ones more and less, equally weighted, it's basically flat. I mean, so there's all these metrics out there that just tell me that we have got some serious concerns. And by the way, you don't have 3 bank failures when your economy is roaring right along, right? You don't see all the layoffs. I mean, look, all the smart money out there, the Amazons, the tech companies that actually have the metrics that can see around the corner of the economy and go, and these people are laying off people left, right, and center. There's not anybody hiring anybody. And then you have the CEO of IBM saying, I'm not going to hire these 8,000 people because I can get those jobs done by AI. I mean, we've got some serious issues, but everybody's whistling by the graveyard right now because, hey, look at all the stock markets. They're up on the year. Well, guess what? I think that could change in a heartbeat. It only takes 10 stocks to change it all.
Scott the Cow Guy, Shellady, market specialist for Market Day Report, 10:30 to 1. The Cow Guy close 1 to 1:30, both at RFD-TV. Scott the Cow Guy, thanks as always.
I'm going to see it.
And he joined us on the Turnkey.pro answer line.
There's only one radio show in Chicago talking about today's biggest stories and telling you what they really mean. That show is this one, Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer.
Signature Bank is Chicago's fastest growing independently owned business bank. It's a bank where relationships still matter. Signature Bank knows your name and your story. I'm Dan Proft, and I know